After mixing countless records over the last 10 years and being a producer for a little bit longer than that, I have learned the value of headphones. I've learned how important they are when you don't have good speakers. I've learned how important they are when you don't have multiple speakers. I've learned how important they are for recording artists properly. They serve a really great purpose in the studio, and the way that things have gone with headphones, you can now use headphones as a standalone monitoring setup. If you have the other right pieces of gear, that is. But today I want to talk about one pair of headphones that I would buy if I could only afford one pair of headphones. Well, I wouldn't say afford because they can get really expensive, but if I could only have one pair of headphones in my studio for the rest of time at my desert island studio. Before I get into which headphone pair I would recommend and why, I do want to say that there are a lot of people who don't understand the importance of headphone amps. Headphone amps make or break headphones. Certain interfaces have really, really bad headphone amps. Interfaces that are really expensive, and I mean like the Prism Lyra, which has terrible headphone amps, the Prism Titan. The Prism stuff just has really bad headphone quality, and it is shocking for the price that you're paying for the stuff that you're getting that. So you gotta be really careful about this. Okay, it can ruin really expensive headphones. Now, the other thing you got to realize, and if you don't already know, which most of you probably do, you got your closed backs and your open backs. Of course, within those two worlds, there are a variety of different headphones, different headphone qualities, different headphone price points, but I'm going to start with closed backs. Closed backs can be used for mixing, depending. I've gotten to know some closed back headphones very, very well, and so I can reference on them. I like the flavor of some of them. I listen to a lot of music on headphones as well, just for pleasure or leisure or whatever it is. So I have that kind of reference point in my brain, but it isn't really the way I want to be going if I'm going to be doing a lot of mixing work, or if I'm going to be doing mixing of sound source material that's going to be played on speakers or a lot of different speakers. I want to be able to reference it somewhere else if I'm just mixing on closed back headphones that aren't really, really, really good. But when it comes to production, when it comes to being creative, when it comes to writing, and of course when it comes to recording, there are a lot of good options in the closed back headphones space. Now, some of you may be disappointed to hear that I don't have an extremely expensive pair of closed back headphones that I keep at the studio, because I've tried most of them and I end up coming back to two. The Audio-Technica M50Xs, yep, you heard me right, the Audio-Technicas, and the Sony MDRs, all right, the 7506s. Guys, these headphones are really, really good. They're really good. As far as recording goes, it works super, super well. I find it really easy to place my voice when I'm recording on those headphones in particular. Whereas, for example, the Barry Dynamics, the 770s that I have, I like them too, but they really put my voice in a very, very kind of pushed or forward space, and that makes it a little bit too unrealistic for me when I'm recording. I need to have a much more natural presentation so I know what I'm doing with my voice, and the artist knows what they're doing. And although a lot of artists that I've recorded really do enjoy recording on the Barry Dynamics, I haven't gotten as consistent or as maybe versatile a performance from those headphones when I'm recording artists with them. I feel like, and I do notice those nuances because I've recorded just for so many thousands of hours on both of the headphone pairs, especially with the Sonys. Now the Sony MDRs, they do have, from what I can tell, and I should have looked at the stats before I made this video, but they do have a little more distortion in them than the Audio-Technica M50Xs do. The M50Xs do have a good amount of low end. The Sony MDRs do too, but I do feel like they're a little bit more low end sensitive. Now, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong there, but what I do feel like is that they have a really good representation of character and space, and the M50Xs similarly have a really good character and also a pretty decent representation of space in the soundstage. And the M50Xs also have a pretty good representation of space and character, but the Sony MDRs just sound a little different. They both work well for production. They both work well for recording. Now, when it comes to mixing, of course, some of you might be looking at maybe the 1770s or the 1990s, the more expensive headphone pairs for mixing and mastering. But this is where I'm going to kind of port over to just those open back headphones. I don't really like to talk about closed back headphones for mixing if I'm going to only have one pair of headphones, because they're never necessarily going to translate the way that open back headphones do. Even your favorite engineers that mix almost purely on headphones, chances are they're using an open back pair of headphones, and for good reason. It's just a much more natural sound stage, much more natural maybe playback, I don't know. The open backs do some good magic. So when it comes to open back headphones, this conversation gets a lot more expensive. Okay, there's a lot of good open back headphones out there. Headphones do have a tendency to sound really good when you spend a lot of money on them. But there's one in particular that sounds really, really, really great. Now, the reasons for which it sounds great, I probably should have mentioned some of them with the Sony MDRs and with the Audio-Technicas, but with all closed back headphones, you kind of hear the same thing no matter where they are in your head. I find this to not necessarily be the case when you're using open back headphones. I've had the 650s, what are those? The Sennheisers, I'm pretty sure it's DT, no, not DT. The 650s, whatever those are. I've had a few Beyerdynamic headphones. I don't even remember all the numbers of them. I've heard the Focal Clears. I've heard the Audis, LCD-Xs. I've heard the LCD 5s and the MM500. I'm having trouble keeping up with all the names and all the numbers of all these headphones, but where I'm going to land as far as headphones go, and if you already watched this channel, again, you probably know what I'm going to say here, but it is the MM500s. I'm somebody who does like and appreciate mid-range kind of monitoring as a form of referencing for mixing and mastering specifically. I do like working on NS10s. I do like working on, just Amphions, just stuff that has a really kind of natural sounding mid-range. These MM500s, they have that mid-range naturalness. They have that kind of detail in the mid-range, but they also have such a full frequency representation at the same time somehow. They have detail top to bottom, but there's something about the mid-range in them that I really, really like without it being too mid-range forward, like, for example, an ATC would sound. Now, why I brought up the whole sounding the same no matter where you have them on your head with the closed backs. These particular open back headphones, they sound the same no matter how you kind of position them on your face. And that, to me, was different from the LCD 5s. It was different from, what else? The Sennheisers were pretty consistent no matter where I put them on my ears, but I really noticed sometimes when I was traveling and I had open back headphones, I would move them and they wouldn't necessarily, they wouldn't give me a consistent sound based on where I had them on my face. Now, maybe I got small ears. I don't know if my ears are really small. I think they're pretty proportionate to my face, and I have a big face. I've got just a big head. So most headphones also don't necessarily fit me that well. But the MM500s, the Audis headphones, I could wear them all day. They're not too heavy. They sound really, really good. And no matter where you put them on your head, they sound the right way. The thing about other headphones that are open backs, sometimes I find that there are always some kind of problem with them. There's something missing. Whether it's a naturalness or a character thing, or maybe it's just like the way they translate or the amount of distortion they have or whatever it is. There's often some little, even with the LCD-Xs, like there's just a detail thing that aren't necessarily as present. And I hope I'm getting all the names correct here. Just hopefully you know what I'm talking about. I should have looked it up before I started this video, but a lot of them are lacking in some way. But these MM500s are the first pair of headphones I've gotten that don't lack in any single way. And so it was the easiest decision ever for me when starting this video to choose those as my Desert Island open back pair of headphones, because I would genuinely replace any monitor that I've ever used with those headphones and be completely happy. Just chipper. I totally could do it. Now, if you are somebody who does not use headphones very much, who's never grown up listening to music on headphones, who doesn't use earbuds, don't look to headphones to solve all your problems because they aren't a space that you're really comfortable in. If you've only ever listened to music in a car, growing up your whole life, chances are loudspeakers with a sub are the way that you're going to be the most comfortable. Get a sub, put it under your desk. Like, you're used to a surround sound system. You're used to something that has separation. And that is okay. But I was raised with headphones. I had cheap headphones for $10 when I was a kid or $5 when I was a kid. And I went from there and I kept investing any of my allowance money that I barely had over years of saving up to getting a slightly more expensive pair. And then, eventually when I got cell phones, they came with headphones back in the day when they weren't trying to rip us off, these cell phone companies. I would use those. Essentially, I got really into headphones and listening to music that way. And to this day, I do like most of my referencing whenever I'm not at the studio on these Bose earbuds, these sport buds or whatever. I don't know. I don't even know what these are called actually, but they're these little things, these little Bose ear things. And honestly, I can tell if a mix is good right away when I use these. They're very, very transparent, and they're semi-open back as well. They have something about them. I just know when something is right when I hear it on the Bose stuff, or just Bose stuff in general. But that's me. So if you are curious about headphones and you wonder, should I be buying a pair of Audis headphones? I don't know. Like, if you need headphones in your studio, maybe they aren't for everybody. But if I had to choose one, I'm for sure going with the Audi's MM500s. And if I had to choose closed backs, probably just going to stick with the classic Audio-Technica M50Xs, Sony MDR 7506s. They always work for me. I'm never going to hate on those headphones. I will never hate on my Audi's MM500s. They're so good. They're so sick. So that's it. Those are my desert island picks. Thanks so much for tuning in, and ciao.